are mercenaries, are martyrs of HSE. When I have to address more than 400 experienced professionals, I need 3 crutches. Please allow me to take the first crutch of praying to my teacher. Sada nimba vrukshasya mooladhivasitam sudasravinam tiktamapya priyantam tarum kalparukshadhikam sadhayantam tam namami Ishwaram Sainadam Sadgurum. The second crutch is I need a presentation slide, right? And the third one is your attention in spite of the fact that the tea has been delayed by maybe an hour. At the outset, please allow me to congratulate the organizers of this. As I was mentioning to the chairman yesterday, in one of my incarnations in marketing, I was told a sale is made when the customer comes back for the product and not the product, nor the check that he has given. The very fact, sir, you are able to do it for a third time, I would like to congratulate you in good marketing and doing a noble cause. And also all your team that is behind you. The theme is inspiring to all of us into action, creating safe and sustainable future through business excellence. Now, this is also linked to our corporate vision, which I will show it to you. And hence, I felt it's an opportunity for me to come to Delhi. On behalf of Reliance Industries Limited, please allow me to express my gratitude to one and all for providing me an opportunity to interact with so many missionaries and enhance my 5 decades of experience learning on safety. Every one of us comes in an unplanned manner into this world, and we also have an unplanned exit. So the question before us is, what is the epitaph which you would like to be written when you exit? Now that is the purpose for which I am standing here. I have written my epitaph long back. How many people I can touch the hearts? This at least is giving me an opportunity to touch at least 400 to 500 people here. Sustainability is what I felt is when the inheritance which you know is what you have acquired from your parents, but there is what is called exheritance, is what we are consuming, what rightfully belong to the next generations. Their water, their energy, their longevity, their natural resources. When the exheritance becomes nil, and when you can transmit to the next generation a little more inheritance, that will be the real sustainability. Now over to the next crutch. Now first few slides are mandatory because you have invited me on behalf of Reliance. I will run through fast, right? All I am saying is we are investing heavily. Even at this time, we are investing more than 100,000 crores in Jamnagar and another 100,000 crores in our Reliance Jio. Perhaps we are the largest investors at present in this environment, in this economy. Now, there is a word sustainable. If you see that, the vision is equally inspiring for us. Through sustainable measures, create value for the nation, enhance the quality of life across the entire socio-economic spectrum. That is the most important word for me, not the rest of it, and help spearhead India as a global leader in the domains that we operate. This is in synchronization, in sync with the theme of this group. Now, these are all some numbers. We have performance, global position, and diversification. I will run through. This will be available for you to see later. We are more than 500,000 people, direct and indirect employment creators right now. And we believe in energy security for the nation. We are the world's largest refinery complex at Jamnagar. We are contributing adequately to the export earnings, and we are spending some amount of money. I won't say it's the highest that we should spend in CSR. Now, let's see where we want to take India to. Now this is from Economist Intelligence Unit. As you know, by 2050, India is supposed to be third at $63 trillion. How can we reach there? How can it be sustainable if the carbon footprint has to be same or come down when we increase the volume by 28 times? Now, it can't be make in India unless it is safely make in India or sustainably make in India. So I would like to add these two words to your conference, and maybe you can pass it on to the Prime Minister. Make in India is not sustainable unless it is sustainably make in India or safely make in India. Now that's a great challenge, but India has got two eyes, both intelligence and innovation. So it should be possible for us to have a lot of things called process intensification so that we consume less power, less energy, less water, less land, less food. My father told me 1/10 of what you eat fills you, 9/10 kills you. Now if that wisdom comes, I don't think there will be any shortage of food. It is a paradox that in the organizations where I work, where we need 1500 calories, we have lovely food courts where we consume 3500 calories, and we also provide gymnasiums where we can work out the remaining 2500 calories during working hours. The paradox is the man who is working in the field, the contractor, the children of lesser God, need 3,500 calories, if not 2,500, but they get 1,500 calories, or kilocalories to be more specific, and they spend all that while walking to the work or going back to the work, cooking the food, and in manners. Is this sustainable? That the person who spends doesn't have the energy, and that the person who doesn't need the energy is sustainable. From that, it is very inspiring to ensure it is across entire socio-economic spectrum we have to address. Now, I have learned from UNEP report once upon a time, an economic development is unsustainable unless it is matched by human development. Now, people have mentioned about different goals, the Millennium Development Goals. I don't think they have achieved what they should, because that is supposed to eliminate and alleviate poverty. Instead of that, it has increased the disparity between the haves and have-nots. You can just see the numbers. It is unsustainable. You cannot have economic development without human development. Now let's see. The other thing is, we think in India we can get more number of people, while India is one of the lowest productive nations. Creating jobs is one aspect of it, but existing jobs to be more productive and then creating wealth is the challenge before us. It is not, if I want to do my project with 100,000 people, somebody says, get me another 40,000 people, we will do it faster. The question is, are we getting the output out of the existing people? And why you don't get? Because we consider contractors as consumables, and we don't have the value for human life in this country. Unless that changes, growth is unsustainable. Now, in sustainability, I feel we are like mathematics teachers who are correcting yesterday's mistakes. What we need in this circle is, I think 50% of the money must go into education at the right level, at the early level. Then people will be getting the right values and right consumptions and minimal wastage. Those concepts come there. It is an inductive investment. And subsequently, if you have got right education, I presume people will be healthy and they will make air also healthy, which I presume both Delhi and Bombay, where we come from, are not necessarily healthy. Now, to manage that health, air pollution, we need investment in health. Is it sustainable? Is that what we want to do? We want to make people sick and then cure them? Next is land. Of course, the land must be minimum used, especially as a chemical engineer. I love what is called process intensification. We must be able to produce the same amount of output with 1/100th of energy or 1/100th of the land if we use nanotechnology and other breakthrough technologies. So India must have its focus on R&D to make more with less for many. This is not my word, this is Dr. Mashelkar's statement. Then comes the water, right? The future wars will be on water, so water needs to be done. India is one of the God-gifted countries where there is normally an assured monsoon, except this year perhaps to some extent. But water has to be conserved. If you do those things, then you get automatically health. You don't need to spend money in making people healthy. As I said, if you don't eat what you don't need, and if you eat healthy, I think there will be adequate food. And lastly, then you will have energy, what you deserve. So my view is, in sustainability, most of the focus must start on education. Now, this is not mine, this is from Aristotle. Educating the mind without educating the heart is no education at all. My mantra for this group should be that you can't manage, you can't make a quantum leap for 28 times unless you use the heart in HSE and not only the head in HSE. HSE I classify as a religion, universal religion of human side of enterprise, because that is the only one that tells every one of us, irrespective of the country or religion, we have the same 5 liters of blood. We don't have more than 37 degrees temperature, I hope. Definitely not less. And we have the same number of bones. So the goal is the same, that the people who come to work today go back with the same liters of blood and not less, the same temperature of the body, 37 degrees, not more, definitely not less, and the same number of bones, not more, not less. If that is so, why do people get hurt? Now, my 5 decades of thing has led to the following conclusion. When people say 80% of the people get hurt because they do unsafe acts, and 16% of the people get hurt because of others' unsafe acts, I want to know how many of you go to work with an intention of getting hurt? None, people say. And how many of you would like to go to work and do something by which somebody else goes home hurt? None. Then why do they get hurt? If you don't know why people get hurt, it is not possible for you to achieve the levels of safety excellence that you're dreaming. Now, I have made some research, and my original thinking is, I found out the reason why people get hurt is because they work. It looks extremely simplistic. Then, of course, if you don't work, you have a beautiful health safety environment, but you don't have business excellence. Unless you balance the BSC, the business side of enterprise, which is incidentally Bombay Stock Exchange, is balanced with the human side of enterprise, you cannot sustain. So I asked why people work. Then there are a lot of literature that is given on BBS, behavioral based safety, and I found that unless there is a stimulus, there is no response. So why do people work? Because people work, the conventional answer given to me by many people is they work for money. But I found, at least in my organization, we are paid by sweeping the card, not by the amount of work that you produce every day. And so also a contractor is paid at the end of the month by the attendance and not by the output. So why do people work? Then I found the consequences of people not working is somebody will ask him at the end of the day, hey, are you working? Or have you delivered it? And everyone answers me, yes. People normally respond to the stimulus. If you ask for cost, you get cost. You ask for quality, you get quality. You ask for schedule, you get for schedule. Then my next question is, why you don't get safety? Now the answer is very clearly given, because we don't ask for safety. Now the next question is, why you don't ask for safety? Because there are no consequences on my job as a supervisor. Nobody ever held me accountable, sacked me, questioned me for somebody getting hurt. If somebody is hurt, replace body by body like we built pyramids in Egypt. We are no different in culture 5,000 years before Christ when the pyramids were built, or even now. We think contractors are consumable, people are consumable, and nobody is accountable. We have to face the reality. Now why the supervisor is not accountable? Because his boss, the manager, doesn't demand from him. Why the manager doesn't demand from him? Because he is not accountable. Then it goes to the leaders and it goes to the CEO. No one is accountable. However, we do whatever our bosses ask because we are robots. We try to respond to the stimulus that comes from the boss. We have no heart for the people who work for it. I would like you to reflect at the end of the day whether what I say is right or wrong, right? And unless we move from the compliance mode to the commitment, from a dishonest compliance to dil ka commitment, you will not achieve the level that you want. Now many people tell me, people are kamchors or work shirkers. I don't know how many of you believe in it, but I don't believe in it. The reason is, when a man is asked to work at a height, he goes up to the top of the column to dismantle something because he's going to be asked, have you opened the flange? He has forgotten to anchor the lanyard. He has not gone there to commit a suicide. Please, that's the reason I would like to classify everybody in manufacturing either as murderers or as martyrs. Those who die are martyrs and those who get the job done are murderers. Because if the man is competent, look at the program. This is not mine, it is from Gita. Nahi kaschit kshanamapi jatu tishtat akarmakrut karyate hyavasah karma sarva prakrujair gunaihi. When Arjun refuses to fight in the war, Krishna tells him, you are talking all rubbish. One blessed arrow coming at your ear, your blood will boil and you will work. We are all programmed to work. Everybody, every human being is programmed to work. But what we need to some extent is the right stimulus. If anybody thinks people take shortcuts, I think it is rubbish. People don't take shortcuts. People try to do the job. Their focus is on job, their focus is not on personal safety. If you have to get the personal safety, what do we need to do? We in Reliance, we are now trying to change 3 aspects of our operating management system. In Chevron, you call it OEMS. In ExxonMobil, you call it OIMS, Operational Excellence, Operational Integrity Management Systems. We just only dropped E and I, right, and we call it OMS. Now the 3 differentiators we are trying to bring in is risk. There's no job without a risk. And instead of saying the risk should be owned by the leaders, etc., which we have been practicing all these years, it's all leadership. I said, no. Let us transfer the risk ownership to the employee who is going to be impacted. Let us focus our attention and let him be aware continuously and perpetually that it is his life is at stake, and OMS does not mean I outsource my safety to somebody either in HSC or in the boss. It has to be owned by them. In my organization, I have to reach out to 5 lakh people, all the contractors, everybody else. Unless the ownership of risk is transferred to the employee, this will not work. If you think it has to be done by somebody else, I am responsible for somebody else, that system. I am not discounting the accountability, but I am saying, please transfer the ownership of risk to the person. Don't outsource your risk. Kiska jana hai, life is mine. I have to look after myself. This has to start in sustainability, as I said, at the education level, at a very, very level. Second, from knowledge, what you can give is only knowledge in a training center. But experience is on the job. So the people will have to spend time observing people whether their behavior is right or wrong on the job. It is not over by saying I have certified, he is compliant, he is competent and transferred. Now we provide a lot of barriers of protection. We provide so many things both in design and in operation. But most of them will never work because they are never verified. So when we transfer the ownership of risk to the employee, we are also demanding, educating and motivating him to verify the health of the barriers, which I learned from BP. I've got highest regard for British Petroleum and so also for Union Carbide, because they have more skeletons than anybody else, and you can only learn from failures. You cannot learn from the people who say we are running excellent. So, they have taught me BP stands for barriers of protection, and verification should be done daily by the person whose life it is. If I ask them, I have provided you with a H2S monitor, you please tell me, is it working? He says, yes sir, it is showing 1 ppm. I said, how much is in the atmosphere? They said, sir, it is showing 1 ppm. I said, I'm asking you what is it in atmosphere? I'm not asking you what the instrument is showing. How the hell do you know the barrier of protection I have given for you is working? He says, sir, it goes once in 3 months to instrumentation or laboratory for checking. What do they find? Is it okay? If it is okay, why are you sending? If it is not okay, that means you're relying on something which is not. Same applies to earthing connections. Same applies to all the barriers that you give to the employees. They